Anime Addicts, this podcast is brought to you by our lovely Anime Addicts community, keeping this podcast ad-free. If you want to help support the show, get all of our exclusive content, free access to the Discord, show notes, and of course that warm feeling you get inside when you do a good thing, you can go to our Patreon page, or you can go to our website, AAAPodcast.com/join. That'll get you to where you can support the show. You get all of our exclusive goodies. And again, you'll be helping out your favorite podcast. And now, it's time to start the show.
Get ready! You're about to listen to the Anime Addicts Anonymous Podcast. Make your anime addiction worse at AAAPodcast.com. And now, here are your anime addicts.
Welcome back to the 787th episode of the Anime Addicts Anonymous Podcast. My name is Mason, and I'm here today to make your addiction so much worse. I was going to say, it's a small, intimate crew, but it's still going to be entertaining because we have the oodles and goodles of Pancake with us today. But
what up?
but that's not all. We also have, coming in last minute, the meister of making the best games on the face of the planet. We got Raggedy Doctor coming in to help strong arm the support for this great episode. So welcome both of you. How's it going?
Back. I'm doing good.
Yeah. Well,
Excellent.
You got his name wrong though, Mason. That's Raggy Daddy over there.
I want to watch Raggy Daggy on the TV. Oh, only the people who go to our support us. If you like what we do, I don't know why that would be, but if you do, you can support us, send a couple dineros our way, and watch our bonus content, such as our Hobby Addicts, our hentai episodes, and after parties. We just came off a very fun Hobby Addicts where we told you all the words that we mean to say the things that we mean in our hearts, which is a bit confusing, but we're just going to keep on rolling. Head on over to iTunes, give us a review if you want, but most importantly, go to the Discord. We have Anime Club and so much more going on. It's a good time, and you can just hang out. If you're tired of content and you want some conversation, that's where you go for your fellow anime hookup, as well as to contribute to all the shenanigans we got going on. In our episode today, we have a main topic called Watch Your Age, which may or may not be entertaining, but I think we'll get some sassy commentary nonetheless, as well as a review of LAZARUS. It's a big name anime. Did it come out? Did it live up to the hype? We will let you know our thoughts at least. Really quick, before we actually kick things off, want to give a shout out to big donations on the Discord, both from Net and Pringmeister, as well as all the people who are joining us on Patreon, such as Louis D this week. Big thank you. You help keep the show doing its thing, whatever that is, and we appreciate you. Raggy Daggy, Pancake with the Goodles. Anything you want to share with the folks? Any arcane wisdom before we kick this bad boy off?
But
maybe not.
thanks again to Louis D with the big D and Net
with the big
got
net.
With the big net, and Pringmeister for being the pringiest.
I hope Pringmeister likes Pringles. Like, I don't know why.
I've
never
so too.
talked with him about it, but like in my head canon, like that's a given. So
that's where he got his name from. In my
if you don't have a sick mustache and you don't like Pringles, don't
Get
tell
the
me.
fuck out.
Don't tell me. Don't ruin that illusion for me.
Never
right.
meet her as Mason.
Here we go. Big news of the week.
おー、大ニュースです。It's time for big news of the week.
Not a huge amount of news this week, and mine isn't honestly even anime exactly related, but with the upcoming release of the Ghost of Tsushima sequel game, Ghost of Yotei, coming out in October 2nd-ish, I believe, wanted to highlight that there are some unique game modes that they're offering this time around. As returning from the first game, you have the Kurosawa mode, which makes you allowed to play the game in like a black and white with like a grainy filter and a lot of wind. That was kind of cool. So they're like, oh, in the sequel, we got to bring it back even better. So they actually have 2 additional game modes coming into the game. One is Takashi Miike mode, which is, honoring that director. And if you know anything about Miike, it means more blood, more guts, more mud, and just more intensity, I guess. And
sounds like more dirty.
yeah, exactly. That's the raw dog way I want to play. But the reason why I picked the news this week, besides the fact that there wasn't a ton, is because the director of Lazarus and Samurai Champloo and Bebop and all that stuff, Shinichiro Watanabe, has a mode in this game as well, in which you can experience, the vistas of Japan as you listen to some lo-fi music, which is really, I think, what all of us aim for to do every day in our lives. So yeah, there's a Watanabe mode, which just has lo-fi beats to chill and slay to as part of the game. And I don't know if I'll play any of these modes. It's not what?
It's not just jazz?
No, I think it's like Nujabes-esque, like Samurai Champloo kind of stuff. So,
okay.
He does, I don't know if he's, involved with picking out the soundtrack, if he's just helping produce it or be like a guiding hand. I'm not really sure what his role will be, but there's an option if you want it, and I think options like that are cool. So, Ghost of Yotei, I might pick it up. I don't know, but there you go. That's my big news of the week. Pancake, what do you have?
I actually have news this week.
That's the news. The news is that she has news, and the news is that there is no news. Raggedy, what do you got?
No.
And the great news is, motherfuckers, you can rent grandmas now, okay?
Why?
What I've always wanted to do is rent grandmas in Japan.
If you could rent a grandma, what would you use said grandma for?
Well, I'm happy you asked, because I would have her clean my bathrooms, because that is my least favorite chore.
That's the one you have to grit your teeth for?
Yeah, that's the one I hate. I hate scrubbing a shower, man. But these grandmas would do that too, because they will do pretty much anything, even break up with your boyfriend at the low, low price of 3,300 yen an hour, which is about 22 bucks USD.
That's a good deal.
That's a great deal. They have a roster of about 100 ladies doing this, age 60 to 94.
94?
They'll do it.
Whoa.
Can this grandma get me a boyfriend that I can then break up with? Like, how? I want to break up with the boyfriend. I don't have either. So I need help with that first.
You gotta hire 2 grandmas.
Oh, okay.
You gotta get one to get you a boyfriend, and then get one to break up with the boyfriend.
No. See, it's simple. You use the rent a boyfriend service, and then use the rent a grandma to end the contract with the rent a boyfriend.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, but you can also rent them to help mediate family disputes, which I think is amazing. Writing, you can also have them teach you write with nice penmanship, babysit. I mean, that seems like the most normal one on this list.
I mean, I think my go-to would be like getting cooking recipes, or just like, go to the grocery store and like, how do I know that beets are fresh? Like, how do I pick out one beet versus another beet? Like, I feel like I need that grandma wisdom.
They have all kinds of knowledge. I'm sure they have a grandma for you, Mason.
Yeah. Let's do it.
You get a grandma, you get a grandma. But yeah, that's my news. You can now rent grandmas in Japan to do a litany of things for about 22 bucks an hour.
I'm game. I'm so game. Let's do it.
My only question.
Yeah, go ahead.
My only question is that would Kazuya from Rent a Girlfriend be just as terrible to his Rent a Grandma?
So he'd be just as thirsty. I'll tell you that much. What if all 3 of us rented a grandma and they did the podcast for us?
Can we dress them like each other? Like,
yeah. Can we dress them like us? Have them watch an anime. And just watch like a short anime, because that'll be like two sessions worth. So for like $100, well, $300 total, we could have an all grandma Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast review. That's pretty awesome.
That would be
Say that-
amazing.
Yeah.
We'll save that for when Ven Sakai season 2 passes listener's
This
choice.
is why people need to support us more and give us enough funding and currency to do this. So the
That
only
would
thing
be
stopping this
amazing.
is you, listener, and your selfish greed wallet that you're unwilling to
I
crack
wonder
open.
if we could actually like rent a grandma to have come on the podcast for an hour.
Yeah. Why not? Let's do
Is
it.
it- I mean, if you go by the time zone, though, I think it's way past their
I
bedtime.
think we could
She
eschew
would
the
just be
normal
getting up.
5 p.m. Yeah. The grind set starts
That's right.
early for grandmas. You got a day full
Get
of
up,
breaking
lady.
up with boyfriends. So you gotta start early.
Teaching people how to cook, mitigating, family disputes. There is some wholesome stuff in there, like being emotional support pillars for like people coming out to their family as like gay and stuff. But I prefer the breaking
Yeah.
up with boyfriends and like bringing them into your family disputes.
Wait, even better. You come out as gay and then break up with your boyfriend.
Yeah, there you go.
Two
A
for
grandma
one.
for everything.
Did you rent this grandma to find this news article? Did you
I
pay?
did.
I'm on an anime podcast and I need funny news. She's just
I need the best
furiously
news
reading
ever.
the local paper because, yeah.
And then
Anyway.
it dawns on her. She's like, I am the news.
Oh my goodness, the old is the new. Oh, it's wrapping around. Raggedy, what do you have for your news?
So, for my news, surprise, surprise, I'm going to talk about dubbed anime.
Oh,
Crazy.
gross.
I
How do I
know.
mute him?
Oh my god.
We'll just mute him and just put it all in subtitles so people have to.
So, apparently, according to both Crunchyroll and Netflix, anime sub-watchers are now officially the minority on their platforms. According to Netflix, roughly 80 to 90% of their viewership watches the anime dubbed. Meanwhile, on Crunchyroll, they are rocking around 48% to 52, or 50, 48 to 52%, depending on where they're looking, watches it dubbed, and what they consider dubbed meaning without subtitles. So they're watching it in their native language. So it's not just English dubbing; it's more specifically whatever that person's native language is.
French or Portuguese or whatever. Yeah.
Correct. And then, in fact, there was a separate report that I happened to find on the Discord's news and suggestions channel, which, again, if you join the Discord, you can help fill out our news and be our rent-a-grandma
Yeah,
for
you
us.
can do the work for us. We're just outsourcing it to the listeners.
But this did align with the news I had, where they found that on Crunchyroll, apparently Spanish dubs account for over 40% of all viewing on the platform, including people who would watch the anime subtitled in Japanese and with, I guess, Spanish subtitles, and then would rewatch it in Spanish dub. I obviously am a proponent of dubs. I like dubs, but I think the cool thing with this is it just continues to show that anime is just growing bigger and bigger globally. It's not just here in America; it's everywhere that it's becoming bigger, and hopefully, Crunchyroll and Netflix will use this opportunity to see that there is a market for it and make the dubs better, so I don't have to feel like the only weirdo who likes watching the dubs.
I mean, I'm not against dubs on principle. I just think they're often an inferior product. Though I will say,
Yes.
to bolster my statistical point, I wonder how many people watch the dubs with subtitles on. And can we claim you're still watching subbed
I
anime
do.
at that point? Can we say you're a stub watcher? Like what? I'm not going to concede my victory just because you still have subtitles on. I would bet
Yeah, I don't know.
a lot of people just have both.
I have both no matter what I'm watching.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like mixing on any kind of show is really terrible, and like music will be super loud and I can't hear what the fuck they're saying.
Yeah. I
Or
agree.
Mitch will be like, "What did they say?" I'm like, "I don't fucking know. Read the subtitles."
Hey, you know he can't read.
I can't read
He's like
with my subtitles.
I can't hear without my
Yeah,
subtitles.
exactly. You got it.
But again, the point being that hopefully they will actually use this as a reason to start making more and better dubbed anime. The Spanish stuff in particular, that came out of a news conference they were doing in Mexico, where they are talking about how they're actually going to expand their Spanish voice actors to not just Mexican voice actors, but to the rest of Latin America to bring in other actors, other voices, other talents. So,
Is that going to
good
be
things.
separate? Like, would they have those as separate languages? Because like
Oh yeah,
Mexican Spanish and like Spain Spanish ain't the same.
I think that's why they are trying to expand it because they realize that
Okay, that's
there
nice
is.
of them.
Yeah, so and they can see that there's a market for it. I think like Peru alone eclipsed like a lot of other markets that you would expect to be big viewership markets for them. So yeah, look, companies, if nothing else, will follow the dollar sign. So you can vote with your wallet, and they can respond sometimes.
The question is, are they expanding the voice actors by finding voice actors, or are they just going to have AI voice actors?
I
Oh
mean, if they can even
well,
do AI subtitles, I have even less faith in like AI voicing. Honestly, with the brain rot going around, there's probably enough people who are just like want everything to sound like a TikTok video, but who knows? Anyway, any other comments on this, or should we get to our main topic?
Let's get to our main topic because you just
main
really
topic.
blew your load on this topic. I came in to contribute and I was like, Jesus
I
Christ.
did so much work when I thought Raggedy wasn't going to be here. Like, I made the trivia question. Like, if
Bro.
if I see Raggedy on an episode, I don't even look at the trivia. I'm like, he's going to get that. I don't have to do anything. But yeah. So our main topic.
He saw it was me and he was like, this bitch doesn't even find news.
No, I thought this would be a silly little discussion. So it's called Watch Your Age, and essentially the impetus was that Mitz, another host on this, you know Mitz. I don't need to explain who Mitz
You know,
is
the
to you
bald
listeners.
man.
Yeah. He always complains about a show not being for him, whether it's the main characters are children or they're a different demographic than him, and he wants older characters because he's an old dude. I'm calling your husband old pancake, but deal with it.
He is old.
Yeah, I know. So I guess my first question is for both of you: how much do you care about like age or gender or the station of the main characters of the show when you're deciding if it's like something you might want to watch? Like, do you see a girl or a show about like girls in like, I don't know, 7th grade, and you're like, oh, there's no way I'd watch that because I'm not a girl in 7th grade? Or do you just watch whatever comes out seasonally or catches your interest and go from there?
I'm not so hung up on their actual age. I'm more about the vibe and the tone of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have, middle school, high school students and enjoy it, at this old age of 28 and, still be able to relate to things. But there are other times where you could be watching somebody in high school or middle school and you're like, I can't relate to this because you guys are acting and like the premise is just too far removed of where I'm currently at, or not something that's interesting to me at this stage in my life. So I go off vibes.
Yeah, absolutely. Raggedy?
Well, as the resident shonen goblin who has been shoveling endless amounts of shows about 14-year-olds and their superpowers down my gullet for years and years, I will tell you that it does not matter to me so much, any of those things. I will find something to enjoy in a lot of shows that are quote unquote, I guess, not supposed to be for me. However, I do like variety. So I do need to mix it up every once in a while, have a change of pace, be it, you know, female protagonist, older protagonist, particularly more mature protagonist, because age a lot of times can just be a number. So the protagonist should be more mature, dealing with things that are more adult or more childish. It can run the gambit. So it is refreshing to have that mix in there, but I'm not going to take a show in isolation and dislike it because of the setting or the character's specific demographics.
Yeah, it's a holistic experience. But let's say you did care. In fact, you only would watch a show where the main characters were exactly the age you were. I made a list, and you guys helped me out, of trying our best to find shows where the main character was an exact age, and I want to ask, like, how well do we think that character represents that age? So if we see a 17-year-old, do they really act like we would think a 17-year-old would act, or do they act 12, or do they act 23? Like, how close do we think that show does? Understanding that, as Pancake said, a lot of these are just, especially they're fictional characters. Age is a number. It's a made up, construct in these worlds. But how close does this show do? And what would your options be if you were a 9-year-old watching anime? Like, what shows would you actually have access to? And obviously, this is not an exhaustive list. There are millions more characters that we could have gone into. But that said, we'll start at the beginning. We'll start at age 0. If you were on that Goo Goo Gaga mindset, what anime would you be watching?
Apparently Hunter x Hunter.
Oh, okay.
I mean, one of the major characters from the Chimera Ant arc, he's 40 days old.
Yeah.
He's just a baby.
He's a little baby.
He's still in the age where, like, your parents, like, tell your age by month, not by year. So yeah, so I guess if you're 0 years old, 1 or younger, let's say, we'll be generous, you can watch just the Chimera Ant arc.
I was about to say, you can only watch the Chimera Ant arc, because that's all you'll relate to.
Quite a main character, but he is the main character of that arc, so I'll give it to you. So how well do we think Miram represents a 40-day-year-old child? I'd say 0%. No parent could realistically expect that from their child.
I would say, actually, as someone who has a child, I will the slightest percentage of the fact that my children also do not care about other humans.
Gotcha. You're calling your children bugs.
Okay.
Is what I'm hearing. You're a bug daddy.
That's right.
Okay. Well, good to know that that's out there for all the people. And I'll be honest, I could not find any shows where people were like 1 or 2 years old. I think that'd be a weird main character to present.
Most of those are like fake 1 and 2 year olds.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's like it'll be like a robot that's like 2 years old, but like they have the brain of a whatever year old.
I guess you could watch like the first episode of Jobless Reincarnation, like maybe.
Yeah.
But you don't have many options. But the shows really start picking up at the age of 4, and there's a couple shows I wanted to highlight here. The first being probably one of the best examples of someone who is the age that they're pretending to portray, which is Mei Kusakabe from My Neighbor Totoro, the younger sister, who is, I would say, as much a 4-year-old as anyone else ever possibly could be. What do you guys think?
I think spot on, a 4-year-old. And I think a 4-year-old would even enjoy watching a 4-year-old in this sense.
Exactly. We have the perfect Venn diagram of character that is the age, I believe that they're that age, and people who are that age in real life could enjoy that movie.
This is just a circle.
It's just a circle.
It's just a circle.
Which is also the shape of Totoro. So
we should have gotten like a Venn diagram put up, Mason, of this.
I was
put
not
them
going
in there.
to make 80 images of different circles in different levels of intersections. But which is funny,
I was lazy.
Because the other I'm so lazy. I'm cutting corners. But the other 4-year-old is Kotaro Sato from the show Kotaro Lives Alone, which is about a 4-year-old who just lives alone and deals with these incredibly dark, depressing topics, and like acts as like a cute psychiatrist for his neighbors. And I would say not very realistic, and a 4-year-old watcher would not enjoy that show at all. So a very different 4-year-old from May.
I would say that I never finished the show. I think I saw like 3 or 4 episodes. While obviously not super realistic, the way the character is written, like the logic and thought processes that he goes through, are very fitting for a like child. But you lose it after like a few sentences where it's like, okay, yeah, I can see why a child would think that, but wait a minute. Again, you are living by yourself and doing these things alone. It's
You're paying bills.
yeah.
So I originally had numbers of like what percentage I thought a character was. So like May was 100%. Like she's 100% a 4-year-old. Kotaro I put as like 40%, and that's being generous because like Gregory said, he has the thought processes, and children are smarter than we often give them credit for, but his ability to like think critically on those thought processes and communicate and like enunciate upon them in like well-versed ideas and theories, you're like, okay, at some point you crossed over from like a cute little babby to you're just a man. You're just a dude living his life. And
just some guy.
He's going through his midlife crisis at 4 years old is what I'm going to say. But he's
going to need therapy like a lot.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. But we're going to keep on clicking through these at a quick rate because we got a lot. And we got the 5-year-olds next. The biggest name one, Anya from Spy Family. Where do we place her? What percentage? And it's funny because while she says she's 6 in the manga and anime, the mangaka's note says that she's actually 5, and she just lied, which seems more like a 5-year-old. I'm not saying.
I would say 75.
Okay.
I would agree. I'd say it's up there. I think you take someone who can read other people's thoughts, and that is going to accelerate their sort of growing up a little bit faster. And you see it with real life kids, right? When you have a kid who is only exposed to, a smaller set of things, they progress a little slower. When you have, say, 2 children, the smaller child tends to do things faster than the first child did because they have someone to model after. So now you supercharge that by saying, oh, you can just read everyone's thoughts. I can see her being a little more advanced than you would expect.
Yeah, I put her at like 70%. I agree with that. I think she's a pretty good 5-year-old for everything that's going on. And she's going to an elite academy. That's going to make her on top of the curve.
An elite child.
Elite specimen.
That she definitely belongs to cheat to get into.
Yeah. Speaking of maybe not the most elite, we have the duo of Ponyo and Sasuke from another Ghibli movie, Ponyo, which I had to front load the list with a lot of Ghibli stuff because they have either. I realized in my research that a protagonist of a Ghibli film is either like 5 or 40. Like that's it's really on the ends of the anime watching spectrum. But I'd say that's pretty accurate.
I think Ghibli is very good at portraying young characters. I would say they're believable, like Sosuke, even Ponyo for being,
Fish.
Not a real human child. Real human child is believable for a 5-year-old. So I'd say like 90%.
Okay.
Super realistic fish.
How
10% for being a fish.
She's 90% fish, 10% ham at this point. So we can keep on trekking along, but please interrupt if you have found any other characters you want to shout out. This one I thought would be amusing, but this is Rin Kaga from everyone's favorite Usagi drop. And I would also put her up there as like very believable for a 6-year-old. Obviously, going through traumatic events tends to make one a little more wise in retrospect to the silliness we often think of that age, but I would say Rin is, as someone who does not have kids nor deals with them and is by far in no way educated in how to diagnose the age of fictional characters, I would say, you tell me she's 6, I believe it.
But not the kind of show you'd want your 6-year-old to watch.
Yeah, probably you don't want to watch this show, but
it's a cute show. At
the very least, it's definitely not the kind of manga you want your 6-year-old.
Yeah, I did put Daikichi on the list later, just for a scary neck-pulling goof of, we're really far away from 6 years old, but we'll get there.
Ooh.
But good show. Fantastic show. Watch the show.
and stop at the end of the show.
Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep it. We have a
We have a lot.
So many.
We have 100 years to go through, Mason.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're not gonna find everything for other show, but like, I think a 6-year-old could stand Usagi Drop, as could a 7-year-old enjoy this next show, which is Nan Nan Biori. This one gets a little bit of a pass because the characters, it's a countryside schoolhouse, so like all the kids have to go to the same schoolroom because there's not enough kids to have different classes. So the kids in the show range from the age of 7 to 14, but the youngest, Renge, she's 7, and she's adorable and cute, and she plays a little flute recorder thing, and I probably played a flute recorder thing when I was 7, so I believe it. Have either of you seen this show?
I have not.
Okay. Well then,
so you're our
my
sole
authority stands.
person.
You're the expert.
I'll stamp it at 70-80%. Why not? Send it.
Okay.
This next one might get a bit of a low score, and that is the professor from Nichijou. This is the kooky little scientist who comes up with full robots, as Pancake might call them. And do we think an 8-year-old could be building such contraptions?
No.
No?
I give her a 40.
That's what I gave her.
You're copying me.
I would agree too.
Might be, but I have 40 in my notes. You just can't see them.
It's because as far as intelligence, not believable. As far as attitude and personality, though, I'd say very believable.
Oh, for sure. Throws a lot of tantrums, very whiny, like sharks. 8-year-old.
Who doesn't like sharks?
Yeah,
Come on, who doesn't like sharks, though? And I think an 8-year-old would get a kick out of Nichijou. Some of the jokes would probably go way over their head, but it's got that cutesy animation style and enough slapstick. I think an 8-year-old would have fun with it.
It's very colorful. I'm so excited for City, but yeah, I think an 8-year-old would enjoy most of it. A lot of the slow motion gags are very funny. A lot of the visual humor goes a long way. Nichijou, awesome, good show. Next up, 9 years old, but once again, a tough pass will age you up, which is Dororo from Dororo, not to be confused with Dorohedoro. This is a little pipsqueak. Famine, samurai.
Yeah, I remember this guy. I forgot about him, but now I remember him. I give him a 55 or a 60.
Okay. I would believe it. I feel like 9 years old is like starting to cusp around to being able to do what they went through and deal with it. So I know I'd probably go all the way up to 70%. And I think a 9-year-old would enjoy Dororo as well. Like I think this is a good sweet spot between like the main character is that age, but Dororo's not like the protector. It's not Hakimaru. Like you get to go along with the big adventurer, but not have to do the fighting yourself. So I think that'd be really engaging.
I've never seen Dororo. I'll take your word for it.
Okay. Well, you don't take Pancake's word because we agree. So therefore, it's okay.
Yeah.
Now on to everyone's favorite 10-year-old. Probably one of the most iconic characters around. And he's been 10 years old for probably about 30 years. And that's
my whole life.
Ash Ketchum from Pokemon.
I think he's 12 now, finally.
Okay.
They let him age at the very end.
A lot of these characters, we do follow their story from year to year. Like you brought up Hunter x Hunter, like Gon ages over time kind of thing. Naruto gets older. But I tried to pick ones that stayed pretty consistent. And I think Ash Ketchum has stayed 10 to 10 pretty much for most of the run.
Yeah, I think he's 10 for like 95% of the runtime. And at like the very end, they let him get a little older.
Yeah, I'd say that Ash Ketchum is probably not a very believable 10-year-old, though.
No. I mean,
he's too responsible.
He's both too responsible and too irresponsible.
Yeah.
Hold on. I have been watching a lot of Pokemon recently.
Oh, I'm sure you have.
Yes, because guess what? Kids love the shit out of out of Pokemon.
Mhm.
So perfect for a 10-year-old, honestly. Ash is the biggest little turd. I think I forgot. Like I
Mhm.
knew somewhere in deep inside like how much of a turd Ash Ketchum was, but it's worse than I remember, y'all. It's so
Well,
bad.
all those Tauros he caught just for shits, man.
There's so many of them, but he's like, but I actually believe a 10-year-old could be that shitty.
Ash Ketchum is just the worst parts of a 10-year-old. And that's
Yes.
it. Everything else he's
And
like
then you give him
14.
powerful animals to run around with.
Well, it's okay. He's not a good trainer, so they're not ever powerful.
Ash Ketchum is 100% what a 10-year-old would be if they lived in a world where they could go out on their own.
Ash
Maybe we should
Ketchum
start doing
is-
this with our 10-year-old.
Ash Ketchum is 100% what a 10-year-old thinks that they are. Like, I'm
Yes.
capable.
Yes.
I can do it. Yeah, so he's a bad influence. I think originally I had Ash as like 60% 10. I think I got to drop him down for the good of our children. I'm putting Ash Ketchum as 40% 10-year-old.
I'm gonna give him
60% menace.
50%.
I will split the difference at 45.
Okay, perfect. And really quick before we move on to the next stage, I want to shout out some comments from characters we were missing in the chat. The girl from Buddy Daddies.
Oh,
She
yeah.
was, I'd say, 90% realistic. She kind of just
How
ragdolled.
old was she?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure she was the
Slate
same
D
age
Biggs
as
is
Anya.
saying 7 or 8. So I'd see her as a
Oh.
little bit older than Anya.
I thought she was 6, but maybe I'm just misremembering.
Who knows? I didn't look it up. So if someone wants to fact check me, let me know. But I would say great representation of someone that age. And Yelior also says the baby sister character from Momo. I only watched the first couple episodes, but the younger sisters from March Comes In Like a Lion. Adorable.
Oh, yeah. Very cute.
So, or no, it's not from Momo. He said Momo from March Comes In Like a Lion. I misread. Sorry. I was thinking Mono, the camera show. Yeah, she's awesome. I would say almost all the characters in March Comes In Like a Lion are pretty believable for their anime age. Oh, once again,
Yeah.
tough times make you grow up a little bit, but such is life.
Mason, you need to stop. You need to stop stalling because we're about to hit the shonen soup.
I know. So I didn't give you guys my breakdowns, but we're in the what I call the children arc right now. From 4 to 12 is the children arc before we hit the teenagers. But
Hormones?
We are essentially in the shonen soup at the moment. I tried not to overload it with people here because once you hit 13, 14, 15, like the high school years, that's when like almost every show could be on this list, and we're not going to do all of them. So add any
Sorry,
that
not
you
sorry.
want. Yeah, exactly. Let's start with 11 though. We have Satsuki, the older sister from My Neighbor Totoro, and no surprise, also phenomenal representation, especially as the older sister.
Oh my
She has
gosh,
more of that
yes.
motherly instincts with the family dynamics. I mean, it's just
I can't remember the little boy's name,
Go ahead.
but the little boy's name in the town, I can't remember his name. But
I forget.
he's a great representation of that age too, because they have that little like where they kind of have like little kid crushes on each other, but they don't like each other, like me. So I think it's perfect representation on both parts.
Absolutely. And on the other side, we have Shiro from No Game, No Life. That's the sister character who is a tricky one. I wanted to see how that bounced off your palates.
Ooh, she is. Oh, she's a horrible representation of. She's way too horny to be an 11-year-old girl.
Yeah. I think that's no. I think that's like no. I'll give it 20%.
That's
Unless,
generous.
Yeah, I was gonna say like for somebody that's, gone through some stuff at way too young of an age to
See, I was going to say 30 because I feel like I could believe like the prodigy, the big intellect coming in, but just how she's represented in the show doesn't give me the best flavoring of what's going on.
I'm going down to like 10%. Like,
Wow.
she's so robotic. She's too smart. It's too much. And I think honestly, even 10% might be generous.
But like 11 in Hikikomori years is like 20. So like you got to do that calculation.
Well, then it's also not believable.
Yeah. Moving on. 12 years old. We're on the cusp of being a teenager, but we're still putting people in boxes. We have Nezuko from Demon Slayer. And I would say, 12-year-old probably would
I don't
enjoy
think
Demon
she's a
Slayer,
good.
but I don't think
Yeah.
she
They
matches
would.
12.
Yeah. No, when I look at her, I see at least 16 to.
Well, it
Well, so
depends.
here's
Half the time she's 16 to 22, and half the time she's like 5 to 8.
A baby. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think she's a terrible representation. Throw her away. Like,
Yeah,
put her in the
zero.
box.
Put it in her box.
Honestly,
Close it.
Fun character, fun show, horrible
Oh, yeah.
representation.
Yeah.
But,
But 12-year-old?
a good 12-year-old. If you were 12 years old and we said you only had to watch shows with 12-year-olds in it, Nezuko would not be bad. Though, obviously, her brother and his compatriots are a couple years older.
Yeah, I think if you're 12 years old and you're looking for representation in anime, you're good. You're set. There's no problem.
Yeah, you're
there.
super good.
I mean,
Because we have Naruto, who's
Believe
a
it.
great representation of a 12-year-old. Annoying, loud, and a little bit horny, wanting a little girl,
Yeah.
like girls, doesn't know how to react. But then you also have the flip side where you have the angsty 12-year-old with Sasuke.
yeah, you really got the sun and the moon, the two sides of
Yeah, the
the
two
12-year-old.
sides of 12s.
You either got
No.
the guy who's so horny that his chills are multiplying, or the guy who just wants nothing to do with any part of society.
Though, could you see a 12-year-old living on their own like that?
He's,
yeah,
like,
with the aid of a
kind of-
village.
Yeah, with the aid of like the boss that for whatever reason lets you get picked on, even though like you're
Yeah.
you care.
I like how we're like, could Naruto, like this 12-year-old ninja boy, live alone? Or could like this 4-year-old Kotaro live alone? Like, we don't really question the 4-year-old, but Naruto, he needs some help.
I mean, he's going to poke his eye out with one of those knives.
His sodium intake is off the charts with all the ramen, the
Yeah.
instant ramen. So yeah, I can believe it. Believe it.
Believe it. But high
I-
scores, 80%.
I put him up
80,
there. Yeah,
80, yeah.
especially, yeah. All right, 13, the most common years. We're in the teenager arc. The first person you have written is Killua from Hunter x Hunter. And I assume Gon is about the same age, maybe a touch older.
Yes, they're the
Okay.
same age.
Yeah.
What a difference
I-
1 year makes from Naruto to Killua. Just the level of competency.
murder? The sheer level of just blood and murder, yeah, definitely. Year goes a long way.
They're really a glow up, if you will.
It's funny because Killua in some aspects is like, yeah, you're definitely 13, but then other times you're like, are you 13? So I give him a 50%.
I would put Killua, both obviously, if you're a 13-year-old, you're gonna love Hunter x Hunter. Great, have a great time. I would put Killua
yeah.
at a 70% 13-year-old just because he skateboards. Like just by virtue of him having a skateboard, which I think he has, right? I'm not insane.
Yep, he has a skateboard
He's
and
very
he really
cool.
likes chocolate.
Yeah, that's 13. That's you look in a dictionary, you look up 13-year-old, it says skateboards and chocolate. And sure, why not?
He also fights with his brothers all the time. That's definitely
Yeah, that's true.
very 13.
Hates his parents, why not? Throw it on the pile.
Okay, I'll change it. He could be 75.
Yeah. 70, yeah. 70.
And yeah, a good age to watch if you're 13 as well. So you better enjoy it, because once you get a couple years older, you can't watch any of these shows ever again.
Yeah.
So,
We're
if
we're
you're
getting
listening
there.
to this and you're past
Binge.
13, you missed it. Sorry, no Killua for you.
Do you want to maybe skip to a few of the later ages, just because we're in that soup of like, yeah, these are all roughly what they behave, and if you're in this age group, you're gonna watch this show.
Yeah,
I know
I
you
don't
won't
know
probably
if
want to
there's-
talk
Yeah,
about.
we could just shout out some.
Yeah, if there's
you
any
know.
that you thought were particularly notable one way or another, I obviously had to bring up Neon Genesis Evangelion. A lot of characters are 14 in there. I think that's a really good representation of what's going on.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I
I think so.
Mob Psycho 100. I think that's pretty good as well. A lot of people with big emotions going on there.
Aaron
Yeah.
Yeager, 15, beginning. He
At the
seems
beginning?
much younger to me
Yep.
at the beginning. So I'd say he's not a super great representation.
I
And
don't
then
know
again, when he turns
if that's
19, I
like.
don't think he's a great representation.
I think 15 is Aaron Yeager like signing up for the core, not 15. Oh, my building fell down, kind of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I believe the 15-year-old Aaron Yeager. That's actually a pretty good representation, I think.
I wanted to
But
put.
do you
Aaron-
believe the 19-year-old Aaron Yeager?
No,
Well,
that's
I
war
I think
changes
if
the
you
man,
said-
but he doesn't age him up by 20 years.
I don't believe him physically, but mentally, 4 years at war, I can see that doing something to somebody like that.
Fair. I just thought it was funny because in the 15 category, I also had K-On! And all the love lives. So I just wanted to go from K-On! To Attack on Titan to give you a sense. And I think they both do it well. Like, I think, your circumstances and your upbringing changes how old you might be perceived as. But I think both the Can girls and Aaron Yeager, the Haikyuu boys, those are all pretty dang accurate. And if you're those
Yep.
ages, you might enjoy those shows.
I would say
What about-
for 16, that works really well for Fern and for Stark, who are 16 and are raised in very different circumstances and are both very believable 16-year-olds for how they were raised.
Yeah. But what about Denji from Chainsaw Man?
I mean, that kid's living on the streets. I could see that shit.
See, I feel like Denji feels like 18 just because of the world he's in, but like, dude just wants to cop a feel, and I feel like that's 16. Like, I feel like he's a touch too young,
Okay.
but I feel like in general, making this list, I feel like I'm not seeing too many characters that are like, oh,
Yeah.
that's unbelievable, that's crazy. I feel, obviously, age is just a number, but I think anime does a pretty alright job of portraying these characters.
And I would say
Yeah.
until we get to 17.
Until we get exactly. This is where comedy comes in, and I'm like, all right, Jotaro Kujo, the biggest, burliest 6'6" unit of a man, 17 years old from Stardust Crusaders. Are we buying that, or does this
No.
guy have a mortgage and 3 kids at home?
Mortgage and 3 kids, faux show.
Oh my god. Well, 3 kids, because that's too much responsibility. I expect this more like when he shows up in jail in the beginning. You're like, yeah, that's a hardened criminal.
Yeah, he's the man.
That guy's got a rap sheet a mile long.
Well,
Exactly.
and the funniest part to me is Jotaro and Narantia are the same age from Golden Wind.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's two very different stages of life, it seems, for those characters. One is struggling to do math, and the other is doing hard time.
Yeah, one's dancing
Which
in
is-
the street, one's brutally murdering people in Egypt. Like, there's a bit of a life difference.
Which is even crazier because it's not like Jotaro has like some crazy backstory. He has like a loving, doting mother at home.
Yeah,
and
he's
goes
got
to
too much
school.
love. He wasn't on the streets enough, is the problem. But in contrast, Luffy, 17
Luffy-
at One Piece. Obviously, the rest of the crew is older, and he's
It hops around, yeah.
Yeah.
There's, I actually think Luffy is a fairly decent representation. I mean, he's not great, but I think he's pretty decent. He's still got that kind of like childish charm, but is still, I mean, he's responsible enough to kind of do stuff on his own. And what helps more with One Piece is the fact that the rest of the crew are all different ages. So it gives you that kind of spectrum that you can see of like, all right, this is the person who is older. They are the ones who are acting more responsibly. Like you can kind of track it and it makes sense. I don't remember exactly how old Sanji is. I think he's 18 or 19, and he acts like an adult, even though
Yeah.
he's not. And he puts on the airs of it, and you can kind of read it from his character,
Oh,
which,
yeah.
again, something an 18-year-old would do is try to act like they are older than they really are.
Yeah, I
But
always
also
I
got
think
the
Sanji
impression.
definitely acts older.
Yeah, I thought Sanji was like 2 or 3 years older, and Luffy was like 2 or 3 years younger. Like they kind of just
Yeah.
met in the
He's
middle,
the-
but it's fine.
He's the youngest other than Chopper. Chopper's 12. Pretty good representation of a 12-year-old.
Yeah, I guess. In deer.
If you're a
years.
deer.
Yeah.
If you're a deer.
What is that in human years?
I have no idea.
Anything before we start moving on to the college age folks?
Well, I have to ask our favorite character. Oh, we're going to college age, so we're talking like 18, 19?
18, 19.
Oh,
Favorite
okay,
character.
okay.
We're right here. Let's talk about him.
Guts.
Berserk.
Yeah.
So this is his age in the Golden Age arc.
Golden
Obviously,
Age, yeah.
He's younger at the beginning. He's older at the end. He doesn't have his daddy silver hair streak yet, but maybe.
I think so. I mean, he's figuring out his sexuality with Griffith at this time.
Yeah.
Which would you do in high school and college? Out in the lake, you're pillaging things. Like I think so.
He gives me
Also
14-year-old vibes with I just want to run around with a big sword, but he gives me 22-year-old vibes with that body. Oh my lord.
So you say he's
averages.
not a good representation.
Couldn't call him a man. He's a hunk of meat. I mean his sword.
saying-
His sword.
He's saying it averages. 14 and 22 averages
Yeah,
to
it's
18.
18 somewhere in there.
Okay.
No, I'm being goofy. He's gone through some tough time. He's got a body built on war, and sure, why
We've
not?
established.
Yeah,
Body
We've established,
built on hanged corpses. So I mean,
exactly. A lot of fresh meat.
Also, great for an 18-year-old who's like,
I
I'm
think
done with
so.
this shonen bullshit. Give me something hard and edgy.
Yep.
Give me some blood.
give me boobs.
So I didn't know that Rintaro from Steins Gate, Okabe,
Yeah,
was
I didn't know
18.
that.
But I would
Yeah.
also say, if you're 18, Steins Gate, Berserk, all great selections. I feel like he's a bit older, but I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, I think he's like a freshman in college.
Yeah. No, I don't know, 80%. I haven't. I stopped going through the list at some point. 19, we got the Run with the Wind boys. They feel like they're in college. 100%. Why not? 20 years old, we have the Nanas from Nana.
I'm actually rewatching Nana, and
Which one?
does Nana
Well,
Kusakabe.
Okay, yeah. Cool Nana
The
or
beginning.
annoying as shit Nana?
Annoying as shit, Nana does not act 19. She acts about 16.
Yeah. She's very much like, oh, my first crush. I just had to break up, like, big emotional, like, sways. And that's fine.
I had
you can have that
I
at
had
20,
sex
but...
with an adult married man
Yeah.
in hotels.
Oh,
like
boy.
it's like, oh girl, like rewatching it, I'm like, so yeah, no, she something else. Cool Nana, I could see being 20.
Yeah. Any other this age in college you want to bring up before we get to the officially old list, which is anyone past 22?
Only because I just watched this show, or rewatched this show for Shonen Showdown. Check out Shonen Showdown when it comes out at some point. For the lead character for Mobile Fighter G Gundam, Domon Kashu, is 20, and he makes Naruto look like a competent adult.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
What would you say
what
his
percent?
age would be? Like, if
He-
you had to
I
pin it on him.
Until I looked it up, I was convinced that he was like 14, and that's purely because he looks a little older than like he acts. But he acts like he's basically if you took Sasuke and Naruto and made them one character, because he's got that like edgy, like cool guy revenge story, but also is really, really loud and obnoxious and stupid.
Gotcha.
And then I looked up, I was like,
Yikes.
holy shit, he's 20? What the fuck?
It's giving me Black Clover vibes, but
Yeah.
I didn't watch enough of that show to properly.
No,
peg
that's actually insulting to the Black Clover characters.
Good.
That's how
good,
bad it
as
is.
intended. All right, let's move to the officially old characters. You can watch these people now if you're around 22 to, let's say you're in your 20s. You can watch these shows. Notable ones I wanted to bring up was Goku from Dragon Ball Z at 24 years old. How do we feel about that? Obviously,
So,
has had
there was
different ages. But...
there was a moment in the Hobby Addicts, again, join us for Hobby Addicts, where Pancake said something that made me age instantly, like I was that guy from Last Crusade. When I saw this, it also did the same thing, where I was just like, oh no, I am so old now.
The Saving Private Ryan. Oh, I'm just decaying into dust. Yeah.
That's
Goku at 24
crazy.
And Saitama from One Punch Man, 24. I feel like Saitama is actually a pretty good 25-year-old.
That's believable. I fully believe that.
I think Saitama is a better 25-year-old than Goku is a 24-year-old. Goku, he just seems mentally so stunted. And the fact that he's got a 5-year-old at 24 just says a lot.
Yeah. Well, he went.
This
well, he
little
was
radish
married.
farmer.
He got married at age 18. Right. I mean,
what is he in hyperbolic time capsule age? Like, how do you age
Yeah,
someone
like,
through that?
Well, and he also died at one point
multiple times.
Yeah.
for like years.
So who knows how old he actually is, and he's alien, so who cares? But yeah, I would not say a 24-year-old is like, oh yeah, Goku, he's living my life for a lot of reasons. But 25, we have Kintaro from Golden Boy. That's a great addition. He seems a little younger, but
yeah,
I
he
thought
seems
was
a little
more
bit. Well, he's one credit away from graduating from college with a law degree, right? So that makes sense that he's 24.
Yeah, but the way he acts is more like, I would expect more like 20, like 19, 20.
Yeah, I think his parents definitely sheltered him, and he needed to get out more when he was a little bit younger.
I wanted to highlight these three people in 27 because I think they're all extremely different, but all not the worst representation I've seen, which is Yor Forger from Spy Family, Gintoki from Gintama, and Spike from Cowboy Bebop. So all very different 27-year-olds, but all ones that I could see. You know, you're at that young adult, you're living your own life, you're not having the best to go at it, but you know, you're existing, you're vibing. What do we think?
Do you think, well, not only that, I do think all three shows do work for 27-year-olds depending on kind of their stage in life. 27-year-old who has a kid might get a huge kick out of Spy Family and having sort of that like family nostalgia feel to it. You know, someone who is going to watch Cowboy Bebop for, you know, something a little bit more, I don't want to say artsy is the right word, but comparatively to a lot of the other stuff we have on this list. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then Gintama is very, you know, it's silly, stupid shonen humor, but it's also very, very clever. So it, you know, it does take a little bit of maturity to be able to put some of those pieces together. So I think this is a good spread.
I think so. I think it's a good representation.
If you're 27 years old, you're watching some good shows. You just don't have a big selection of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want to highlight shows that are for our specific ages, not to necessarily pat on ourselves?
We can do that. I need to remember how old I am.
Well, we're at my age, 28, for a couple more weeks. So I'll take 28 and 29. Mob Psycho 100. Ara Akata.
Reagan.
Akata?
Reagan, yeah.
Arataka Reagan. He's
Arataka
awesome.
Reagan. Yeah, he's good. Dr. Kenzo from Monster. I could see that as well.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
You know, isn't 28 kind of young to be a doctor, though?
No. It depends on what. Well, so if you go straight.
Well, I guess if you're not
actually,
a surgeon.
Well, he's a neurosurgeon, so assuming he went straight through, I'm going to do the math in real time. Graduates college 21-ish, 4 years of med school 25-ish, needs 7 years of residency to be a neurosurgeon. That's 32. So he wouldn't even be on his own until he was 33. So unless he is doing some Doogie Howser shit, this is actually inaccurate.
Let's say he's a prodigy, though, and he gets to be a famed neurosurgeon.
Started at 16.
By the age of, let's say,
Yeah.
no, let's say he like advanced, and let's say he's there by 25, like 7 years in advance of like a normal timeline. That means he did a year or two, and I was like, I'm done. This was a like he already gave up on that.
Which I will tell you, not wholly unrealistic.
No, absolutely. I know a lot of people who went through a lot of degrees in school to get to a place and be like, I don't like this anymore. I just thought it was funny that we have Reagan, the fake it till you make it, throw sand and salt in their face, versus like acclaimed neurosurgeon who's on the run. So,
well, I feel like at this part, like at this stage in life, people can be in very different points in their life and on their journey for sure. This is when you like diverge, and it's like, so that's what you're gonna do, huh?
This is your thing, really? You're sticking with it? An anime podcast? Okay. Well, where are you at, Pancake? How are you feeling? Are you a Reagan or are you a Tenma? Or are you a Kenshin from Rurouni Kenshin?
I don't think I'm like any of these guys. I would like to be. Can I just be more like Gojo? Because I'm turning 29 in a couple weeks.
Sure,
so
you could be a Gojo.
Can I just Gojo at 29?
Yeah. Just pure Riz.
Or pure Riz, stealing people's slippers and just walking out with them. Like, just stealing from poor kids. Love it.
I like this set of 29 between Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen or Misato from Neon Genesis Evangelion. Because these are both, like, the parent adult characters. And they're both, like, in charge of, like, a group of 14, 15-year-old dipwads. And, like, by virtue of that, these people seem so much more, like, put together. It's like
Does Misato seem mature and put together?
I mean, she has a penguin. Do you? I don't.
I don't.
Like, I'm just saying, like, when you're a kid, your teachers in second grade are like, oh, these are adults. And then you grew up and you're like, oh, Miss Rachel was 23 years old. Like, what was I doing learning from her? Like, she didn't know.
What does she fucking know?
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah. I'll take Gojo, though. I'll be Gojo.
You just want to be Gojo. And who doesn't?
Can't blame you.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go through where we're at. I'm in 32, 33. So obviously the most notable one recently was Kafka from Kaiju number 8. He's struggling with being 32 and almost aging out of the military that he wants to do. And more fittingly, I think Muta Nanba from Space Brothers, trying to be an astronaut before he ages out. So essentially, anime has taught me that if you're 32, like, this is your last chance to be anybody. After this
is your last bid, Mason.
You're done.
You're done.
So I got one last chance.
Yeah. So I will take then the next set because I'm 34. I
thought you were younger than Mason, actually.
Nope. Apparently,
see that smile. Raggedy is 20%. 34.
That's
He's
right.
a young man.
It's the shonen slop. It keeps the skin fresh.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Oh,
the best skincare routine.
have you seen my husband's skin? That bald head so smooth.
2 hours of shonen daily, 3 on the weekend will keep you looking in your teens.
The only one that I saw that I had even heard of was Nicholas Brown from Gangsta, which I have not seen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at a picture of this man, and that is a 34-year-old man. That is for sure. But I know nothing about it to say if he's a good representation.
Fair enough. Well, he's all you got. I know we're running long. I guess we'll just pick some old ones just for the few people that still exist past the age of 40, or anyone else you wanted to shout out.
Thor's, I think, is... I'm just shouting out Thor's because I think he's a good representation of 39 if you're a big burly man and, you know.
Was he 39?
Not Thorfinn. Thor's his father.
Thor's. No, not Thorfinn.
I thought he was younger, but
Is he younger?
I could have been wrong.
When I was looking it up, that's what I found.
What he said. Okay, maybe what I saw was like, his old, flashback.
His
or
flashback.
whatever. Yeah.
Thor's.
Let's see. 41. You have Odokawa from Odd Taxi. Great.
Pretty good.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Masami Kondo from After the Rain. He's 45, crushing on a cutie who's a little bit younger. Sure, I believe it. Ichiro Inuyashiki, the old grandpa, the bang 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 boy from I don't think he's doing
Oh
the
my
bangs.
gosh.
He's fighting against them. He's 58. So, they exist out there, as well as 69, the funniest age of all time.
That's right.
Joseph Joestar.
Did
Somehow
he do that on
still
purpose?
younger than Jotaro, but he's older.
Yeah.
He acts younger for sure.
Is this Stardust
yeah.
Crusaders age, or is this
Stardust Crusaders. So
Yeah.
he is when he's
Diamond is Unbreakable. I think he's
even
old.
older? Yeah,
he's like ancient.
80s.
Yeah. How old is he?
But he's not enough of a main character for that one. He's more of a main character for
exactly.
Stardust Crusaders, so
Exactly.
it works. I like the plus 100.
Yeah, if you're over 100 years old and still watching anime, I just grouped all these folks together. You have Manji from Blade of the Immortal. You have Freirin. You have Inuyasha. I think he's like 200 something. He acts
like
like he's 13, so it's okay. And you got Dio.
I also threw in Meliodas from Seven Deadly Sins. The only reason is
Oh,
'cause he
yeah.
is 3,000 years old, but acts like he is 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
could
then
have thrown in some of the vampires,
So many
lolly
elves.
vampires who are like 5,000 years
Yeah.
old and they act like they're 12, and yeah, that's fine.
And really, just for completeness' sake, because we started with 0, I went and found the oldest anime character that anyone has made at 3.5 trillion with a T years old.
Oh my god! I need the soundboard.
Ajimu Najibi from Medaka Box Abnormal. Yeah, 3.5 trillion years old.
And just for
Imagine-
everybody's information, Joseph Joestar is 79 and Diamond
Okay.
Unbreakable.
So, if you had to listen to Mitz, you would have to wait 3.49 repeating 1,000 times, trillion years between Dio and being able to watch Medaka Box Abnormal. Like that, you just have to be waiting. You watch every anime that ever came out. You're like, I gotta wait for this last one so I can connect with this one last character. But
Yeah.
there you go. Hopefully that was a weird little deep dive into how old characters are. Hopefully you got surprised by their actual fake ages. And
I think the big thing to point out with this is that regardless of what your age is, there is a show with a character out there that does represent you. You can find it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Might not be a lot of them, but there.
Exactly. So enjoy it while you can, and watch more anime, folks. So thank you both for dealing with that with me. And what is our trivia question?
Oh, I get to ask it because it's in pink on the dock.
Hell yeah.
In Lazarus, what is the hacking name of Elena? And we'll give you that answer when we're back.
All right, Anime Addicts. While Mason and Pancake might be carrying the show today, Mitz is still here, bringing you your anime news break. Getting it started, we have 2 new anime adaptation announcements. Sugar Sugar Rune, the manga, is going to be getting an adaptation into anime from Studio Kara. There was a panel at the Japan Expo 2025 where they did announce this was going to be made into an anime. So it's commemorating the 20th anniversary of the series. The director will be Yusuke Matsui of Sony Aunt of Supersonico the Animation. He worked on that. Again, I said it was Studio Kara, which should be well known at this point. So it looks like that Studio Pierrot produced a 51-episode TV anime for this property way back in 2005. And I guess this is kind of being a reboot of sorts here, because this is clearly a re-release coming out here nearly 20 years later. It's about the queen of a magical world that is selected through a competition in which two witches travel to the human world to gather the hearts of boys who fall in love with them. So that's a pretty interesting premise. Look out for Sugar Sugar Rune getting re-released in 2025. Next up, Unmei no Makimodoshi, subtitled as Fate Rewinder, is also getting made into an anime from its manga format. Rie Matsumoto is directing the anime at Studio Bones, and the production is being credited to Story, which I believe is a new production company that's putting stuff out now. So, a secret organization known as the Space-Time Police Special Task Force, well, that's a mouthful, nicknamed the Rewinders, thank you, exists to save those who have died tragic, untimely deaths. Their weapon is the Retry Eye, a time machine implanted in the right eye, and then they go around and they solve cases. So if you're a fan of fantasy crime, I guess, look out. Unmei no Makimodoshi, or Fate Rewinder, coming out also. Next up, well, Gachi Akuta, which I think is probably one of the best anime of the season as far as I've seen, is also one of the most highly anticipated shows in Japan. And they are saying, however, that this show has failed to make a big splash on Crunchyroll and other streaming services. So, Gachi Akuta is streaming on Crunchyroll in North America and is also accessible on Prime via Crunchyroll and via Netflix in some regions in Asia. But the streaming charts have not reflected the hype that this anime was thought to have, nor its reputation as one of the best of the season. So it looks like series such as Squid Game and Sandman on Netflix and We Were Liars are the highest for this week. And so far, Gachi Akuta has far failed to rank at all on either of the streaming services' top charts. A lack of appearance follows more than one anime title consistently making it into the top 10 streaming services. So we'll have to see. I thought it was pretty great, but it looks like Gachi Akuta not yet catching fire in the United States. Lastly, in the news, you will now be able to soon sleep in a parking lot in Japan at Lawson. A weird news story. Lawson is opening up a car camping program that will allow you to sleep in the parking lot. As of this summer, there will be that option to spend the night in the convenience store parking lot, which is not something I'm used to seeing in Japan. So that doesn't mean that the Lawson store chain is encouraging people to toss their sleeping bags down on the pavement, but instead they're partnering with the Japan Recreational Vehicle Association to expand its network of RV park facilities to include some Lawsons. So you'll be able to sleep in the parking lot in your car, particularly if you have like a camper car or an RV or something like that. The idea, they've said, was pretty unusual at first, but it makes a lot of sense. Being parked next to a convenience store that's open all night gives people easy access to food and drinks and various sundry items, etc., and also bathrooms. So they're going to be charging about $17 to $21 per night to sleep in the lot. So this is just some synergy here. You can sleep in the parking lot, get all the food and bathroom action you want, and the Lawson makes a little bit of scratch as well. This was Mitsugi, and this was your anime news break, and now it's time to get back to the podcast. Anime Addicts over at our Patreon page or at our website, AAAPodcast.com/join. You're going to be able to get our extra content. Do you like video games? Well, we talk an awful lot of video games over on our Hobby Addicts. You can hear us every week discuss the video games and other hobbies that we've been getting into. Lots of exciting talk over there. And of course, hey, I won't tell if you like hentai. It's okay. It can just be between us. But we also have our hentai episodes. I recently shock and awed Pancake with Boku no Pico, episode 1. It was indeed tragic for her to have to see that. So if you want to see the hentai episodes and get those video game talks, you can head over to our Patreon page or our website, AAAPodcast.com/join. You're going to help out the podcast, keep this show running and on the wheels, and we reward you with even more talk from the AAA hosts. And now, let's get back to the podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you hugely to Mitz for putting that news break together. Even when he's taking a week off, man grinds away content for you. So if you don't appreciate him, I will, because I didn't have to do it. So thank you, Mitz. We love you. Weekly trivia question. As Pancake asked, in Lazarus, what is the hacking name of Alina? The answer is Mad Screamer. Is that a good hacking name?
It sounds kind of sexual.
It really does. she was a mad screamer. Oh, that's a great name.
Whoa. Hey.
At least she's not running around screaming hardcore all the time.
Yeah, that's true. All the hacking names were a little lackluster. Anyway, we got a mailbag. Let's do it.
It's time for an almighty anime mailbag. Anime.
Mailbag.
It's Pink. Pancake, where are you? In our time
I'm right
of need.
here. Oh my gosh.
It's unlocked.
We have a mailbag from Michael Skornavaca. That means cow in Spanish.
Oh, well, News Michael, you should go by the name Mad Screamer.
You
From what
should.
I've heard. Michael Mad Screamer? Oh my goodness, it rolls off the tongue.
That's real sexy. What single anime, more than any other, has profoundly changed your perspective on a real world issue or aspect of life, and how did it so? I couldn't just pick one, because I feel like a lot of anime have impacted my life, because I grew up with anime, and so I have a couple put down here for you, because Mason has none.
You merely adopted the anime. I was born into it. Molded by
Hey,
it.
I was-
For the record, I did not try to do a Bane voice there. That was just me being lazy. And I can come up with an answer. I just didn't work on it. So you stole for
okay.
time, please. Thank you.
So Orange, this is more of a manga. I didn't watch the anime of Orange yet, but I did read all of the manga, and I think it really depicts depression from both the person going through it and the people that are impacted by it in a really beautiful way. And it just touched me in a certain kind of way. And then Clannad After Story, I watched this in high school with my little brother, and it impacted both of us greatly on how we view family and grief a lot. So that shaped me profoundly in my youth. And then, of course, Grave of the Fireflies is an obvious one. It really showed the impact of actions on innocent people, especially children, during war, from a different country's perspective, which we don't usually get. It really impacted me a lot when I watched that. It left me thinking about it for weeks after I watched it for the first time. And then, of course, Naruto, because of friendship,
Believe
chasing your dreams, and never giving up.
and do I like ramen? I really want to try it. What is this mystery noodle soup?
Yeah, right?
Nice.
What about you, Raggedy?
Well,
Daggedy.
so I put One Piece because of course I did. Let's be real. I know who I am and what I am. But I will explain a little further. I know Em was on the show a little while back and talked about a favorite meme that I like to have around with just like, oh, you learn from My Hero Academia to never give up, and Naruto is about friendship, and then there's like this long paragraph about the socioeconomic like dystopia that the One Piece world actually is. And I think as I started with One Piece way back in like 2002 and have been following it weekly ever since.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, that's right. So when I first started watching One Piece, it's like, yay, silly little pirate show. And then as I've aged, I'm like, oh, there's like some real like should hear about slavery and the aristocracy and oligarchy, and there's even stuff about like healthcare for all and like all these like very political things that are buried throughout the story and weave throughout it. So it was kind of cool to like grow up with it and then start to realize what the story was telling. And it's a cool thing to have a story do multiple things for you, and you can pick up more things from a story you might realize. The other answer, more of a personal one, is sort of online, not because it's profound in any way, shape, or form, but it's actually one of the first anime I watched with my wife. And it was one of those things where I was like, oh, this girl is just as much of a nerd as I am. This is going to work out just great.
Aw.
Aw, that's cute. Okay, I came up with a couple answers. First one, I guess, since Pancake brought up Grave of the Fireflies. Similarly, recent movie Toto-chan, the little girl at the window, very similar. Just shows the point of view of a child going through some pretty rough moments in her life from war and the effect it has. And I thought it just was really earnest, nice perspective of that kind of age and impact from just a difficult childhood and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was pretty good. Normally when I get these mailbags, I just turn and look at my manga shelf and just like pick whatever I think is the most applicable. So I'm going to say Planetes, only because a lot of people romanticize, oh, I want to be an astronaut and go to space and see the stars. And really, when that becomes reality and people do it, it just become another place for jobs to be had, and just it's going to lose its luster and appeal. And that is a unique perspective on the things you glorify the most or think are shining the most brightly. Once you really get there, it's just kind of another place that you are, and that's thing. And I guess if I'm talking about stuff that I just really like the messaging of, even though it's not new and didn't change my mind, stuff like Fooly Cooly, stuff like Tatami Galaxy, any show that has the message of swing the bat, do the thing, don't let life pass you by, I'm always a sucker for. So those shows always have a motivating factor in my life, and I appreciate them for that. So thank you, Michael Mad Screamer, for the mailbag. I hope this doesn't discourage other people from leaving mailbags as well, because we will not always give you a silly nickname. But
we will always give you a silly nickname.
Yes.
So if you want a silly nickname, please leave a mailbag.
Go ahead. Or just
If it's this crew, you'll probably get a silly
you're
nickname.
gonna get Michael, you're not getting dunked on. We love you. Go to AAAPodcast.com. That's right, a real website that you can go to, click on mailbags and more, and leave your Shark Tanks, your mailbag questions, your hentai requests, anything you want, put it in there. We'll read it. I promise you. Might not always say it on the air.
We need more mailbags.
We need more mailbags.
Because
we like them.
Raggedy was the only one that writes them.
Yeah,
and we're tired of answering
wanna-
Raggedy's mailbags.
Yeah. All right.
Just kidding.
Let's move on to the final segment of this podcast, the review of Lazarus. This is a spring 2025 show done by MAPPA. You can watch it on Hulu and Max and Adult Swim and all over the place. It is an original work by the famed director Shinichiro Watanabe. He did Shampoo and Bebop and a ton of other shows we're probably going to talk about in this review. Essentially, big picture synopsis, it takes place a bit into the future where this brilliant scientist named Dr. Skinner has developed this miracle drug called Hapna. And everyone is like, cool, we love it. And they take it, and after a couple years, he comes back and says, actually, Hapna is going to kill you unless someone can find me in 30 days. And they're like, wow, that sucks. And essentially, the government forms a team called Lazarus of 5 agents to track down where in the world is Carmen, Dr. Skinner. And that's the plot. That's what it's about. We're trying to find one man to save humanity. All that being said, we're going to start off with our expectations prior to watching the show. Pancake, what were your expectations going into Lazarus?
Well, we know who my husband is. All he did was talk shit about how it was a Bebop ripoff. So that's what my impression was going into it. That
Excellent.
It was going to be a Bebop ripoff.
And was it? We'll find out soon. Raggedy.
So I watched this weekly when it came out, so there was no all of my impressions going in were based off of like the advertising, and I knew Chad Stileski, the guy from John Wick, was
Hmm.
involved. I knew Watanabe was involved. I knew Mappa was involved. So I was honestly pretty hopeful because there was a lot of good things attached to this show, and it's an original, which is always fun to dive into an original where you don't have much expectations. That being said, Adult Swim has been really shitting the bed as of late. So while I was hopeful, I was worried at the same time.
Yeah, Adult Swim shitting the bed kind of just goes hand in hand these days. You can kind of just assume that. That said, though, going in, like any actor whose name is bigger than their role, Watanabe's name as a director kind of will always cast a shadow over his projects to some degree. And for good reason. Like, his shows tend to be quite solid. From Bebop, Shampoo, Kids on the Slope, Terror and Resonance, even his like co-direction in Macross Plus are all really worth watching and good stuff. Yes, his recent efforts I'm not as big of a fan of, from Carol and Tuesday to the Blade Runner tie-in, but nonetheless I was expecting his swagger, his style, and we actually failed this show for impressions. I think it was myself, Otaku, and Caroline. We were kind of just like, it's not doing much, but this was overwhelmingly voted into this review by the listeners, whether because they thought we would like it, whether it's just a big property and it's a popular thing, or they were just morbidly curious. Here we are. It's back from the dead. Would we recommend Lazarus? Still spoiler free. Pancake, should the people watch it?
I would not recommend this show. I feel like the pacing's off in this, and the characters are relatively underdeveloped. And I feel like there's so many anime out there that could use your time much more wisely.
Yeah. Raggedy.
Yeah.
I would say watch the parkour highlights on YouTube because they're cool. They look pretty. They're fun. Otherwise, like really don't bother. The characters are all very bland. The story is very bizarrely paced. Pancake had mentioned that, the fear was this was going to be a Bebop ripoff. This to me feels more like a Samurai Champloo ripoff, which I guess you could say I'm splitting hairs. It's the same, same director, but this follows more along the line of a show where there are different little vignettes tied together by one overarching story that they're trying to get to. But based on what they chose to be those little vignettes and what they chose to be that overarching story, the pacing just feels way out of sync, and it makes it kind of a head scratcher why it exists the way it does. I think there is some studio meddling that I have heard rumblings about, that Watanabe wanted to take the show in a different direction than it ended up going in, which is kind of obvious now that I know about it. Um, each of the individual episodes, some of them are genuinely good in isolation, but as a whole product, it just falls apart.
Yeah, we just had a mailbag. You might have heard it about someone asking about shows that really, profoundly changed your mind or perspective. This show is not one of them.
No.
This show is a thinly veiled excuse to animate some parkour chase sequences. And they're good. They're good chase sequences. They're good fight sequences. We've just been here before. The OP to the visual staples, the character designs, the music, the editing. It's derivative of a lot of Watanabe's works. And it's not bad, but without the character or writing to back it up, it just feels like a mishmash of vibes and themes and messaging. And more importantly, it's just lacking in soul and entertainment. It's just not an engaging watch. And there's nothing like I can directly point to and be like, oh, well, this was awful or this was terrible. Like, it was just kind of across the board, just missing the mark enough consistently to kind of just feel underwhelming. So even without expectations, I was disappointed, and I'm not really sure who, if anyone, I would recommend it to, besides just someone casually looking for some alright visuals, but we'll get into the specifics. I think we can avoid most spoilers along the way, and I think there are some good things to highlight that we'll that bring up. So that said, we're going to get into spoilers. I think we'll keep them pretty minor for a while, but here is your official warning.
Spoilers are coming. Oh my god!
So it's interesting. Yeah, go
Oh.
ahead.
I say to be a little more on the positive side to start, because I'm sure we will devolve into some negativity later, because the show does deserve
You have
that.
Pancake and Mason on an episode. Like, it's gonna.
But yes, so hence why
If
I
it's
want
not a
to,
5, Mason and I are gonna just like poop all over it.
which is why I would like to start with some positivity before we devolve into the negativity that again the show does deserve. What was because again each of these episodes are their sort of their own little vignettes that are tied together. At least a lot of them do feel that way. Is there an episode or a storyline or story piece that you guys actually enjoyed? Because I know for me, I think it was episode 4, the one with the nightclub. I actually really
the club episode 4, and I would say second place is episode 7, essentially where they all scatter and go to like different tropical beaches and just
Yes.
like appreciate nature, like untouched by bad writing and like mankind. Like those, I would say were the 2 best episodes.
I agree with both of you, and I also really liked the concept of the cult.
Episode
I
6.
wish that was episode 6. I wish that was an anime by itself, because that concept with the AI, like
as a god,
controlling
yeah.
as a god, was so interesting, but it just felt so cheated because you just get that one little taste and it's like over. You have to get that storyline done.
So this is a show, if you haven't seen it, where essentially they get a clue and they pursue that clue, and essentially it leads them nowhere except for another clue. So really, you could skip 90% of these episodes plot-wise, and like they would just end up with the same clue that they started. Like they could have gone to the first place, gotten the clue, and gone to the last place. Like there's really not much through line.
You do have to stop at episode 3.
Episode 3, they could have just solved it there, but we're ignoring that.
Yeah, really.
I mean, starting even sooner
That was annoying.
than that, something I liked at the very beginning, for the first 5 episodes, they kind of have this character-specific narration where each of the 5 members of Lazarus kind of give their like personal perspective on how this whole incident has affected them, whether from them being a child, from how drugs have impacted them. Like, it's very engaging, but then they run out of people and then they stop doing it, and that was dumb. I like the eye catches, essentially that divides the A and B part of the episode, but then they started to reuse them.
Those.
Like, they were so close to coming up with 26 original Lazaruses, and then they ran out of steam. They're like, best we can do is like 24, and then got to reuse a couple at the end. I'm like, oh, you were so close. So I was going to say at the beginning, it was interesting that Raggedy felt more Shampoo, and Pancake, at least through Mitsuki, heard more like Bebop ripoff, because I would say it's a mix of both, because Watanabe anime have never had the strongest plot points, and the MacGuffin here is just, we need to find a guy, whereas the MacGuffin of Shampoo was, we need to find the samurai that smells of sunflowers. Like, it's very just, you're not watching it for that through line, you're watching it for the great stories and the characters that bolster them. So this one was like a Shampoo plot with Bebop characters, is kind of how I digested it, at least.
Maybe the most insulting thing anyone's ever said about Spike Spiegel.
I mean, these were not
they
were not that good.
So
they were just
hard.
a Xerox of a copy. Like, Axel was just Spike. The hardcore hacker was just Ed. Chris was just what's her face, just more annoying. Like, it was sorry, not to put disrespect on the Bebop names. Doug was just Jet. Like, they just were, oh, let's just take the character and try to replicate their essence, but it's the store brand knockoff version, and it was just lacking so much.
Does that make Leland Ed?
No, Leland's Canadian, so he doesn't deserve a play. I'm kidding.
Sorry, Andrew. No, I agree with you, Mason. I just wish the characters had a little bit more depth. They were just felt so just underdeveloped. Like, even with their little episodes, like how, we would delve into them, it still felt very shallow, and we didn't get to spend enough time with them. And so we didn't get enough, I don't know, interaction between each character that felt genuine.
But I don't think it's even like a 13 episode thing. Like, it's easy to say like, oh, Bebop had, 24 episodes. Like, they only had 13 episodes. Like, if they had more time. No, I think if you give these people more time, they're still going to come off the same way. Like, they just were lacking nuance. Like, what can you tell me about Axel? Like, what can you genuinely tell me about him? Like, he's generally aloof and likes to do party tricks. Like,
Yeah.
he really doesn't have a lot of motivating factors, which means he doesn't have a lot of chemistry with a lot of his other people. And the worst thing is, the characters they met on their journey weren't that engaging either. Like, you think of Bebop, where they, encounter crazy characters who have like a whole life and a whole backstory. Not just every character they met in this show either A, was like, oh, I was thinking about you my entire life since you left me, or B, they'd run into like these people that they get into fights with, and they figure out, oh, it's actually just a big misunderstanding and it's okay now and we forgive each other. Like, it was just no one in the show really felt like a person.
Well,
the biggest problem,
especially with Doug in the very opening scene, he's like, turn on something like dark and menacing, like for music. I was like, oh no. Like, we're already going like edgelord in the car at the beginning of the show. This is going to be something, guys.
I think the biggest culprit from this show is what they chose to focus the narrative around and what they decide to make the MacGuffin. Because in a show like Samurai Champloo, where the MacGuffin is, hey, I want to find this guy because he's my dad, or I think he's my dad, or whatever that works. There's no urgency, right? There's no time crunch. You can do whatever you want within the episodes around that, or even in Bebop, where the through thread is mostly about them living this bounty hunter life, and how they have someone from Spike's past is really the big bad at the end, right? Saint Vicious, Vicious. The problem with this is they chose something that's such a heavy MacGuffin that it needs all this exposition, all of this attention placed on it. So you don't have the time to sit with the characters, to let them breathe and let them be characters. It's just exposition dump after exposition dump. And a lot of times it's stuff where, because of how grave of a situation they're in, it feels really weird that, like, Leland, who, he's got personal hangups about his family and their status in the world, but like, his info could have helped save the world a lot earlier in the show.
My favorite
and
is
back to
episode
like the time
11.
crunch.
Sorry, go ahead.
The time crunch, even like the 30 days, doesn't even feel like a time crunch in this show.
It's very blasé.
It's just like, it's just like 30 more days. Ooh, kind of spooky.
Well, something I like, but like I didn't really like, I'm just being a dick about it, was like episode 11. Like, I get that they kind of pair off characters so we can have like more one-on-one interactions that get to know people. You can't really have that deep character building if you always have 5 people in a room. But so they're like, okay, so we're gonna send Elena and Doug out here, and we're gonna send Axel off to do his own thing. Chris and Leland, just like chill around, just put your feet up, like drink some tea, like wait around until someone comes and says, hey, if someone else comes by, give them a letter. Like, that's what they did. You have one day to live. I know it's also tricky because they have to have a strict deadline to save the world by. But like, it feels like everyone who didn't take Hopna right away will still live a little bit longer. Like, I get that the cure is in his mind, but like, it still felt that they had to even contrive to make this world-ending plot even more contrived, to be like, no, there's a deadline, guys, for real. And
I promise.
But like, you mentioned like Vicious in Bebop, and even though he shows up at the end, he's a recurring like force, like an undercurrent that's constantly pushing from the shadows. Like you said, they have to spend so much time making Hopna such a big deal that by the time we get to the assassins or the other governmental agencies that are like kind of the big antagonist, it's so late in the game that they just feel Like, wait, now we need to care about them? I don't really. I'm kind
I
of.
didn't care about it. I was
Yeah.
like, who the fuck cares?
And they keep on coming back. That same assassin guy is here over and over again. And, like, I don't find actual
When he
ability to
died,
fight
I was
him
like,
off. Yeah.
okay. I was like, whatever.
Like
bye.
the NSA, well, not the NSA, because the NSA is I guess the good guys in this.
Yeah. The
Whatever government,
INSCOM, whatever.
yeah, the other government agency, the one who ends up being the bad guy. Like he's like, oh, this is my. It's like basically, oh, this is my opportunity to now like stop Lazarus and take over the government that's going to collapse in a few days. Like, where are the priorities here? Like, what is happening?
Yeah. I think one of the most redeeming factors in this whole anime is the cat and just the massive cojones they put on that man.
You love it. You love to see it.
Like, that cat carried the show beginning to end, and his balls had more plot than a lot of the show had.
So before I get back into ragging the show, some good points. Visually, I liked a lot of the sweeping, parallaxing camera shots, and there's some decent framing shots. And they always, like, when that cat was there, they would put the camera like high up or in like unique positions to show the space or show perspectives. Like, I do like Watanabe's general visual through lines, shot selection, lens effects. Like, the visuals were often quite good. They do falter at times. Episodes 4, club dancing. Episode 10's Elena reacting is like almost Flash animation-esque, and I rewatched it probably 6 times because it was so funny. Like, there are moments where it does chunk, but as Raggedy brought up, the fight scenes not only looked good, but like just the general choreography, courtesy of the John Wick director, Chad Stahelski, whatever, doing the sequences, I thought was a standout. I thought that was like a highlight, Bones-esque level of choreography, if you will. Did we like those?
Yeah,
Those
I loved
were,
it. And I also liked the use of colors and different color palettes depending on where they were. I thought that was really sharp, and I
This
did
show
like that.
definitely just wanted to be a globe-trotting fun adventure, and I feel like it got bogged down. And really, the biggest issue to me with the show, besides the characters, is that it felt like it was trying to touch on so many things. We have cryptocurrency, the SoundCloud, opioids to climate change, insider trading to artificial intelligence, TikToks to cults. It touches on all these things, but it doesn't really say anything about it. It's just wearing it like a trendy, ill-fitting jacket, where
Yeah.
we need to be relevant, and it's the modern age, we got to talk. There's a lot going on in the world, but then it just moves on before it has time to like simmer in it, and it's just, I don't know.
I think that was one of the things with the production, because from what the reports are, Watanabe wanted this to be a globe-trotting adventure show, and he wanted it to be a little bit sillier. He wanted it to be a little more lighthearted and fun, but Adult Swim was like, no, it needs to be darker, it needs to be more serious, and you can see where it clashes, because the globe-trotting fun time stuff is the better parts of the show. The stuff that's all about the Skinner and all that ends up falling flat. Some of the stuff you can almost make this meta assumption that everyone's acting the way they are because they're all on Hopna, so they're all affected by the medication, so they react like inappropriately to these things. But that doesn't make it compelling to watch just because it technically makes sense.
Yeah.
Do we think the show got better or worse as it went on?
Worse.
Definitely. I would say it got worse because it got more bogged down in the final story of it.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I feel like the quality of the show kind of maintained the beginning through the end. It's ends up running mostly a similar beat, dovetailing off more towards the end because of all the extra end time story stuff they had to put in it. I did really like from the ending the assassin's backstory initially.
Yeah.
And then they fucked it up by doing a 10-minute exposition dump explaining the thing that they did with visual storytelling. And I hate it when they do
hated
that.
that. I just want it just You don't have to spoon feed me. Please don't spoon feed me.
You did it so
Let
well.
me
It was
enjoy it.
Unless it's
it was
Goodles.
Unless it's Goodles.
and I would be remiss if I did not mention one of the other production things that I know, Pancake, you watched this week. Mason, was that your
Yeah.
experience as well?
Yeah.
So this show was originally released dub first before the sub. The sub did not start until 4 weeks after the fact, which you might think is like, who cares? Whatever. Like, yeah, I'm gonna gloat
That's
a little bit,
weird.
like that. Finally, hey, I get what I want before everyone else does. Hooray! Except if you watch them side by side, there are a lot of uh, cuts and keyframes missing from the dub because they had to get it to the dub actors sooner so that way they could actually do the dubbing. It's if you watch it in isolation, you will probably not notice it, but if you are paying really close attention, you can. It ends up being a little more skippy and not as fluid as the sub version for that reason.
Oh, I watched it dubbed.
Yeah, and I don't know if it carries out through the rest of the show, but I know especially in the beginning, it's not as fluid compared to the sub version for that
Interesting.
reason. So even when they tried to do something a little bit different, because they're catering to the Adult Swim audience, they're catering to an American audience, they're catering to people who are fans of Shampoo and fans of Cowboy Bebop, which is more of a Western audience. They still kind of shoot themselves in the foot production wise.
I mean, I saw ads for this show like during sporting events. Like this was pushed to people who, probably watched some Toonami or Adult Swim growing up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember liking that anime with the Bebop." Like that's who I think they were targeting, and this is not the best foot forward. And I know Caroline's usually the one who likes coming in and be like, "This scene was ridiculous because this would never happen," with these like plot holes. And there were a lot here. But there were a lot of scenes as I go over my notes from episodes early and episodes at the end that like really were so goofy and like clashing in any sort of tonality that really threw me off. And like there was a lot of bad scenes across the board. Like I think one reason why episode 4 or even 7 were so good is because they just, not that they were that good, they were just like avoided the pitfalls that the other episodes seem to fall into. Whether it's the Leland screaming out, "I want to eat Grammy Belinda's baklava," and everyone's like, "Oh, okay, you're cool now." Or we find out at the end that like all these characters are just like might have been caught up in the same like explosion at an airport, which kind of maybe edited their genes to be that like there were just dumb reasons for things happening. Or episode 12 had a cool start with all these characters waking up in like hospital beds, like in different areas. Like that was thematically relevant. What are we gonna do with that? Oh, he's actually just gonna ride his hospital bed as it's AI controlled from a hacker out the window and through like the hallways of the hospital to like make a grand escape. Like that was just dumb. There was just a lot of dumb things that happened, and it was like the rule of cool, except the show wasn't cool enough to pull it off. Like it had some neat moments, but it was just, I don't know, it just seemed to miss the point. I guess one thing really quick, you guys both had music as on in your thing here. And I thought the music was, maybe not as memorable as something like Shampoo or Bebop, but like, I thought it was lush. It was fine. What you guys hating the music?
I just didn't think the music fit the vibe.
Did anything fit the vibe though?
It just, I guess not. It just was like listening to the music in these like chase scenes and things. I just kept on thinking like this is trying to be Bebop too hard, but like the setting just doesn't give me jazz. Like, why are you just giving me jazzy music? This should be more like futuristic, like lo-fi or some like rock kind of music, not like like, get out of here. It doesn't match. Did you
That
think
was-
the same thing, Raggedy?
So that was my. I have two complaints about the music. That is one of the exact same complaint. While the music in and of itself isn't like bad, it just doesn't fit the show. It's just placed wrong. And not only is it just wrong on the vibes, a lot of times it felt like the music scores were not paired with the correct scenes.
Yeah.
Almost like the intense deep thriller scene would have the music that was like lighter and goofier and vice versa. Just never seemed to match up appropriately. And the other reason I have music as a con is this is what he's supposed to be like good at. Like this is like one of his best things is this. And you drop the ball here straight to the con section.
Yeah, I guess I'd.
Dude, and what was with that ED, especially at the very end? That was a terrible song.
Yeah,
I was like,
I'm not going to defend that one.
like, Mitz got out of the shower and he was like, what the fuck is this song? I said, it's the ending of Lazarus. He was like,
The most
wow.
beautiful sound in the world at the end of it. Well,
yeah,
Reggie,
really.
you watch this week to week
Yes.
by choice. I assume
For some reason.
it worked better week to week, just kind of in like let's check in on how the gang's doing. Yep, still going to a doctor's office because why not? Like,
I would say it definitely works better on a week-to-week format because most of these kinds of shows work better on a week-to-week format. These shows that don't necessarily have the strongest narrative throughput where each individual episode can be entertaining, right? So you check in and you watch an episode, you're like, oh yeah, that was 20 minutes where I was, watching them do some parkour stuff and that episode was kind of interesting. And then you'd watch another episode and be like, that was kind of lame. Hopefully next week doesn't do that again.
so if they're designed, as most anime are, to be week to week, why do they only have a recap at the beginning in episodes 11 and 13? Like,
Because it's a bad anime. I don't know what to tell you.
I think they just like didn't have the content. They're like, oh well, geez, 11 is kind of lacking because they're just gonna chill around while Axel fights that dude again. I guess we gotta like buffer it with like a minute or something of recap. Like,
Funny.
it was weird when they had the recaps.
A funny tailspin or side point on the week to week is I watched this week to week with my wife. I watched all 13 episodes. My wife watched 12 episodes
What?
because
She,
I
she didn't hear that amazing ending song.
she was
She needs to go back and hear it.
for whatever reason I put on the last episode just to like because we were like very obviously falling off favor for the show and there comes a point where you just sometimes watch stuff just to see how it ends. And I had some time, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to see where this goes. I put it on, watched it. Later, I turned to my wife. I said, so I finished Lazarus. You're okay. She's like, okay, good. Thank God I don't have to finish it.
And the thing is, this is a show where it's obviously going after one guy. There's some secrets in the back pocket that they're saving for the end. And you're like, well, maybe, episode 2, episode 3, it's not the greatest, but like, it can turn it around. It can pull some tricks out of its bag and really, have a rough start, but it never does it. It just blunders its way to the end of the 13th episode. And you're like, that's what I was watching for? Really? This adult guy just figures everything out instantly. Oh, I see a guy in a fuzzy back of his head, and that must be the legendary assassin killer guy. We can figure him out, and we solve the entire plot, and everything's a-okay, and everyone's forgiven, and everyone's a cool guy. And it was so lackluster. And I get that there's an appeal to the, anti-finale, like you build it up and then it's not. Aka 13 did that phenomenally. This is just bad.
Well, especially because I can't remember his name, the NSA guy, when he was going through his explanation, it sounded like he knew the answer the entire time. So why did we have 13 episodes of him sending out people to get an answer he already had?
Well, because he just got like scrubs. He picked out his team based on people that were all strategically in the same airport. It was like, yeah, these guys will be a crack shot team to save humanity. Just a bunch of scrubs who can do a flip off the chair.
But again, he didn't need them because it sounds like he just had the answers by the end all on his own. It was like completely pointless.
I mean, like, logistically, if you look at how they put their clues together, it was very thinly. It was one of those shows where, they have the hackers speak of like, oh, I'm going to divert the mainframe to do this, to untrace the Zeta flux. And someone's like, oh, in English, please. And she's like, I'm just going to hack it. I'm just going to hack and win. Like, I can do everything. Everything was just so convenient. They always knew who to ask for. Every member of the team knew someone right as they needed to. Everything was so convenient. They all showed up at the same time from all over the globe to find the guy in the big reunion. It was just convenient. I'm all for not wasting time, but this show should have used its time better.
It wasted my time.
Yeah.
You sure wasted my time. I did like the police officer, though. That was throughout the whole series.
Was he... They dropped him for a bit, though, right? Because the whole gag is, there's this clueless, bumbling police officer that Axel, like, runs into at the beginning, and he doesn't apprehend him. And then we see that police officer, like, going about his day. And then, like, they just stop showing him. And then he pops in at the end. And I'm like, just commit to the bit. Show him every episode. Commit to the bit.
Yeah, I wanted to see more of him.
Every episode. Commit to the bit. Have a new eye catch every episode. The show just didn't commit. It was eyes in the... I don't know. Just so we don't waste listeners' time, are we ready to score this any less?
I am definitely ready to score this, and I think we need to start doing a poll on Discord for what our listeners, for the specifically for listener picks, what they're scoring the show out of 5, because I would like to know if they actually like this shit. Because I'm giving this 2.5 cat nutsacks out of 5.
It was a chonky cat nutsack. What was the cat's name? Did we?
It was.
I don't know. I don't think we have a cat name either.
Like, I know Leland was talking to it at like the very end, but I don't remember. He was Skinner the whole time.
Little chonk.
A little chonk. Yeah, this was unfortunately a very ineffectual story, very plot hole ridden, full of contrived lack of coolness. And we've seen this before, done better in other Watanabe shows. I'm going to give it 2 overpriced and overrated steaks out of 5. Raggedy, what do you think?
This show is best consumed as a highlight reel of the action sequences and nothing more than that. It fails on pretty much every other level, from the characters to the writing to the pacing to the music, as I have discussed. It even somehow manages to bury its gaze in one of the episodes, and it somehow had time to do that, but didn't have time to actually develop any characters in any real sense. They tried to do the dub first and still flubbed that too. I'm actually going to give this 1.5 baklavas out of 5.
Ooh. Oh, I thought Raggedy was going to
bigger hater than us.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, the show's not good, but it's like, it's hard to say, like, how fine it is. It's like the most well done show while being bad. Like, it's impressive that I can't. I don't know.
The problem is that it's insulting, is how I take it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it should be way better than it is, and I like to think that it has nothing to do with the creatives that actually tried to put this together, and is more on the producers getting their sticky little Adult Swim fingers all over this.
It wouldn't surprise me, but at the end of the day, what came out is the show we watched, and unfortunately, we weren't a big fan, so it averages out to a 2 out of 5, which is... I think I'm good with that. I mean, I better be good with it. That's what the score I gave it. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. We really appreciate you sticking with us. Hopefully you don't think we're a 2 out of 5. And if you don't, and you think we're even better, please give us a review, because it goes a long way. This was episode 787 of the Anime Addicts Anonymous Podcast. Once again, you can check us out on Discord and our website, AAAPodcast.com. Thank you, Pancake and Raggedy, for going through all the years of anime that have ever existed. Thank you if you support us and get our bonus content. Next episode, we will be doing a review of Apothecary Diaries Season 2, and that's our last review until we get into impressions, which is always a fun time. And we'll see you there. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on this crazy adventure. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Love you long time.